and welcome back to my channel. I changed the camera position for this video, so hopefully you can see my face better, although you might not be able to see the rest of me, but I hope this is a better position anyway, at least for now, until I can work out maybe how to improve it. So anyway, I'm going to continue this review of Spectrum Women. I'm hoping to round up this review today. I hope you can see that, Spectrum Women. There you go. I'm hoping to round up this review today because I realise this is a very lengthy review, but there's a lot I wanted to say about this book, so that's the reason why. Unfortunately, my last video cut out of me yet again, so I'm going to carry on from where I finished off. So, as I was saying last week, in last week's video, I was talking about empathy and how one of the authors in Spectrum Women, the autistic women in the book, explains that her autistic children are very exposed to the extent that they are extreme empaths. And I was saying how, although I am definitely not an extreme empath, as I do struggle with certain aspects of empathy, I can understand, I can relate to her comment on page 185, that even when people in films hit the bad guys, her children feel bad. This is because they don't instinctively see the socially constructed idea of an antagonist, and so they feel the hurt no matter what type of person the individual is. This resonated with me because I don't want anyone to be hurt, even killers or dangerous criminals. I've always been like this. I've always even really abhorrent, absolutely awful, horrible people, even someone as evil in inverted commas as say someone like Hitler, for example. I wouldn't want anyone, no matter what crime they've committed, no matter what evil they've committed, to be given physical pain in return, because to me that just seems really nonsensical, and I kind of just think that causing physical harm to other people is just wrong no matter what, and no matter what the person's done. So it's true, I don't know whether that's an autistic thing or whether that's just the way I see things, but it's interesting that it was mentioned upon in this book about how this woman's children don't really understand that idea of antagonists when they're watching films, and are against violence no matter who it's inflicted upon, or they sort of feel for the person, even someone who's committed a horrible crime, they still see their humanity, and they still kind of still are against any pain being inflicted on them, by virtue of the fact that they're alive and they shouldn't have pain inflicted upon them. So yeah, I can understand that, and that's part of the reason why I'm against the death penalty. And because I say I struggle with empathy, but I still feel a pang of pain. For example, when I've watched those programs on about American criminals who are facing a death penalty, and I feel sorry for them, even though they've committed really horrible crimes. I just don't think they should be put to death. So that whole concept of revenge is something I don't really understand. So yeah, I don't really understand the concept of revenge. I've never really understood it really. I mean, sure, if someone's been really horrible to me or something, obviously I'll be really angry, and I might in a moment do something horrible to them. But the idea of remaining vindictive to someone, or having that kind of grudge against someone, or wanting to harbour revenge, that people talk about, I've never really understood. So yeah, so I could relate to that. So yeah, and also psychologically speaking, I want to understand why people do the things they do, and it's often really complicated and down to maybe they've been abused in childhood, or their parents have been really horrible to them, or there could be a whole range of factors, and I always want to try and understand why people do horrible things, instead of thinking that they should be, instead of, obviously they need to be punished and stuff, obviously, but I'm against it being done in any physical way, if that makes sense. And I think that comes down to the fact that on an empathy level, I really struggle with empathy, and the empathy I struggle with in particular is I really find it really very hard to understand feelings. So when anything to do with feelings on an empathy level, I just can't get. So people often think I'm cold and uncaring sometimes because I don't display empathy in the way it's expected, and I'm not really a very I'm not an emotional person, so I'm not good at giving people sentimental caring sort of thing, or I can kind of like when people expect me to be quiet or really upset over something, I'm not, because I'm like really, I could be like super logical. It doesn't mean I don't care though, but if someone's like hurt physically, it can really affect me, like on a kind of feelings level. I can feel quite like tortured by it. Like, it's horrible. I think maybe because I can understand physical pain in a way that I can't understand emotional pain. So yeah, so let me know what you think about this. I also think that although autistics generally don't lack empathy in a broader sense, and I think really only psychopaths do in a broader sense, our extreme anxiety can numb our empathy. So being in a state of constant tension or survival mode 24/7 means we can be more irritable, quicker to anger, and possibly less able to be caring towards others. Now, I'm speaking here, I don't want to generalise, because obviously all autistics are so very different, and this is obviously not going to apply to everyone. I'm really speaking about myself, but I'm theorising that this could apply to some other autistics. It sounds to me quite a kind of plausible theory, but let me know what you think. So it's only a tentative theory. But it could explain why I'm not always as caring as I wish I could be. I mean, I have a lot to deal with my own in terms of, like anxiety is like, I'm in a kind of state of tension, like 24/7, almost like survival mode really, that people don't see because I'm very good at hiding it. But yes, I'm in a state of constant 24/7 anxiety, and when you're in that sort of state, all your energy is kind of being spent, all your brain power is being spent at trying to keep yourself secure. So it doesn't really leave much room for caring for others. And I think any human faced with extreme circumstances will find it hard to be that empathetic towards other people. I think and autistics are in that state of survival 24/7 just because of the nature of our neurology. So that might explain why some of us do find it hard to be empathetic towards others, which then obviously gets misinterpreted and people think, oh yeah, we completely lack empathy, and it's not that. It's just that because we're under so much stress and tension, it's very hard for us to kind of like access that empathy, maybe. Far from autistics being feelingless, I think it's often the case actually we have too many feelings to deal with. It's just that we don't really know what to deal with them, we can't label them and all that. Because I know that I'm full of feeling, but I just don't really know how to name it or describe it, so it's just there. But yeah, it is overwhelming. So yeah, I mean, it's uncomfortable enough having to deal with your own feelings really, instead of, without having to deal with other people's feelings on top of your own. So maybe, it's part of that kind of survival. It's a sort of survival tactic, maybe, that our brains kind of switch off to external stuff sometimes in order to conserve energy, because we're already dealing with so much of our own feelings. So let me know what you think. I do think it's hard to be empathetic when you're in survival mode, when your own house, so to speak, is on fire, as it takes every ounce of energy to live. So moving on now away from empathy, on page 187, the book discusses lack of sleep amongst autistics. Now there is research that shows that being able to get to sleep for most people with autism takes 30 to 60 minutes instead of the usual 15 to 20 minutes. That makes sense to me because I don't time how long it takes me to get to sleep, but it does often seem to take me like quite a long time. I don't tend to switch off straight away, and it can be quite an anxiety-provoking thing. Although most nights I do eventually fall asleep, as long as there is no noise, it has to be said. This is on the assumption that there is no noise. If there's no noise, although it still take me, longer than that average, I will usually fall asleep, before too long. My body will do that, but I think the problem for me is I am a very light sleeper. I have very vivid dreams, and I don't really have much in the way of restful sleep. So even when I do get what I would call a reasonably good night's sleep, I am nearly always at least a little bit tired, a little bit foggy, a little bit distractible, a little bit aware that I am a bit tired, and that's on a good day, so it's kind of like my normal. And I think, another reason is that although the getting to sleep part isn't usually a problem, and I'm talking obviously when there's no noise, when there is noise, then it could take me hours to get to sleep. Then it's really difficult. Anything that changes in my environment, any sensory stimuli, not just noise, it could be light, it could be movement, anything like that, it could really, I'm so sensitive to it, it will really affect my sleep. So sleeping for me, in order to get a good night's sleep, it's so important that my sensory environment is as low key as possible. But staying asleep could be a problem. I do often wake up in the night, because I'm a light sleeper, and any changes in my environment, no matter how small, that won't disturb most people. Could even just be a smell. Like when my brother once sprayed deodorant on in the morning, that woke me up because it kind of went, and my door was closed, but I could still smell it. And just anything like that, or a light switch being turned on, that will wake me up. So yeah, as you could tell, this kind of makes for a quite difficult situation, because unfortunately I live in a world where I'm around other people, so it's difficult, very difficult. So it's more for me the maintenance of sleep that is a problem, as opposed to falling asleep per se. It's the maintenance. And the fact that I don't think I get much in the way of deep sleep. I seem to spend quite a lot of time in REM, because I often recall my dreams that are very vivid. So yeah, I'm nearly always at least a little tired. That's kind of my normal. As long as it doesn't get too bad, I can just about do what I need to do in terms of my routine. But I am very sensitive to lack of sleep, so if it moves away from what I'm used to, that can really mess up my day. And can sometimes, it can be quite, really quite bad. So yeah, so let me know about what you think, because I think sleep issues are quite common in autism, and obviously, although mine aren't as severe as what some people experience, they are quite. For me, it's mainly the sensory issues, and if my sensory environment is okay, my sleep will usually be reasonably okay. But if my sensory environment is not okay, my sleep will be really badly affected, and that will really negatively affect my life. So do let me know what you think about these issues. On page 190, Terry Main talks about her school days and school lessons. She often did not understand the task she was being asked to do. On page 191, she says that the teachers were often puzzled. They knew she was intelligent, and yet she appeared to be unable to manage the simplest of tasks, and did things in a way they didn't understand. I guess it's so relatable to me, it is almost uncanny. This basically could have been written about me. Teachers at school said the exact same thing about me, hence the fact that my year 1 teacher called me an enigma. For example, I was held back on the early learning material because I could not manage more complex tasks. This was despite the fact that I had a wide vocabulary and was clearly very advanced in some areas of learning, because I had a really very uneven profile in terms of my learning profile was all over the place. Yet in other areas I was performing several years behind my age, so it's kind of, some areas were advanced and some areas were very behind my age. So I struggled with organisation and sequencing, and also the educational psychology report mentions that my reaction speed was very slow as well. So this obviously meant that they couldn't really understand me because I was all over the place. Okay, so I'm going to move on to part 2 now to carry on this review. So moving on to part 2 now.